Hello everyone, welcome to Mark Stay's Creative Differences, a monthly live stream where I talk to writer friends about those little things that make a big difference to their craft and careers, in the hope that we can give readers some insight to their creative process and writers and other creative folk some practical advice they can actually use. My name is Mark Stay. I'm a writer, screenwriter, podcaster, and if you're joining us live, feel free to ask questions in the comments and take part in the conversation. A big thank you, as always, to Dominic Curry for his jingle, which has a Coronation Street vibe to it. Here we go. Thank you very much for that, Dominic. We've got people from Merseyside, we've got people from New Zealand, from all over the world. Just fantastic. I'm also asking people what they're reading at the moment. Gavin is reading Guards, one of my favourite Terry Pratchett novels. Thanks for that. But let's get on with things. Let's introduce my guest, who is the award-winning best-selling author of the brilliant D.S. George Cross series. He's had an extraordinary career as a director and screenwriter, including episodes of Jeremy Brett's Sherlock Holmes, which changed my life. He's worked with people like Derek Jarman. He's worked on Coronation Street. He wrote and directed the movie Jack and Sarah, the last episode of Cold Feet. He's worked on Flushed Away, Shrek, and My Little Pony. Yes, really, it's only that Tim Sullivan. Tim, welcome to the Creative Differences podcast. How are you today, sir?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's all the better for speaking to you. Now, first of all, congrats on the Taylor. Now, in May, you celebrated selling 1 million copies of this incredible series, the George Cross series. And then, just a few weeks ago, you won the Crime Writers Association Dagger in the Library. That's the one that's voted for by librarians. That must make it all the more special. Congratulations on the award. Libraries, what do libraries mean to you, Tim?
I think libraries are hugely important, and I think that recently they've become a really easy target for lazy councils who need to make cuts, and they've changed in a way. When I grew up, libraries were where you would go and every week or so we'll go and borrow 5 books, and it was really thrilling. And now, though, to survive, they've become much more of a community hub. So many more things go on in libraries now, and they're so vital, and people appreciate them a lot more. And and with the advent of computers, there are centers where people can go and use computers, as well as reading newspapers and magazines, and do yoga classes and Scrabble classes and all sorts of stuff. And it was great to win the award because it's voted for by librarians and readers. So it's really nice to know that George is kind of making his way through the library shelves of the United Kingdom.
Wonderful stuff. Now, when young Tim runs into the library, say he's 10 years old, goes into the library, what's the first section you would go to?
Fiction and Billy Bunter.
Really?
Yeah. I reckon so.
Excellent.
And I know they're sort of politically incorrect now, but those were different times, and I thought he wrote them beautifully.
Brilliant, great stuff. Well, let's look at the Taylor, because I absolutely love this. This is so much fun. In the Taylor, we meet George Cross again, who is this brilliant neurodiverse detective who, among other things, doesn't like being touched. There's a moment in this book where he has to be measured for a suit. Why do you do these things to poor George? And tell us what trouble he's got himself into this time.
Well, because it's it's all real life, isn't it? And I try and portray how someone on the spectrum can find certain things difficult, things that we would normally navigate, and the neurotypical people would just get on with. But for the neurodivergent, it can be a challenge. And the thing about George is fascinated by processes. So in the tailor, he's in the world of bespoke tailoring, and is completely taken by that world and by the skills of these tailors, and the language So, for example, when people have offcuts at a tailor's studio, they're called cabbages, and he loves stuff like that. He loves all this kind of archaic, and also just the understanding of what makes people do these things drives him. And I always try and do that in George's cases. There's always a new world for him to kind of get involved in, because I think it's a really good setting to interest people. You know, that you might talk about things people are either interested in or haven't, paid much attention to.
Is it driven by the subjects that you choose? Because each of these in the series, you've got the dentist, the monk, the teacher, the bookseller, the politician, the patient, the cyclist, now the tailor. Are these your fascinations too? Are you sort of thinking, okay, I want to know everything about dentistry, so I'm going to throw George into this milieu, and I'm going to learn about this myself? Is it driven by your own obsessions?
Yes and no. In fact, in The Dentist, it isn't a lot to do with dentistry. The victim is a dentist. I mean, at the beginning, when I wrote that one, I found that I had really big trouble finding titles. I'm obviously really rubbish at titles. And, I was self-publishing at the time. And, when you self-publish, you have a contract with Amazon, which I didn't realize. So I suddenly had to come up with the title. And in the end, I thought, I sod it, call it The Dentist. And then I'd written the next one, because self-publishing, you need to have the two come out quite quickly to get some sort of visibility. And then I thought, I'll call it The Cyclist. And then I thought, I might be onto something here. Then I ran out of ists. So the next one was called The Patient. And by then I was picked up by a publisher, and the first thing they said was, we want to change the titles. And I went, great, good luck with it. Let me know what you can come up with. Then 3 months later, they came back and said, we can't find anything. And so they've stayed the same. And now people look at it and go, such a clever marketing ploy. And I go, oh yeah, I know. Thought about it all the way along, just thought, what will make it stand out? And I think, but you've got to be careful. I think I can't be led by the title. It's more, the title's one thing, but you've really got to find a world, and it's difficult for me because I write without knowing what's happened. So I have a body, and that's it. I don't know what's going to happen. I know what they did. I don't know who they are. And so it's a kind of voyage of discovery. So I've got to choose something that I know I'm going to be able to get or George is going to be able to get his teeth into.
With the tailor, the body is on a train. Tell us more. Tell us how this one kicks off.
Well, it's quite difficult to talk about the tailor because it's one of those ones where there are too many spoilers. I think that, it was like when I wrote The Monk. I wrote The Monk because I'd been an altar boy till I was about 16, and I knew a lot about abbeys and monasteries in it. And, my feeling was, who would want to kill a monk? And I kind of felt the same way with the tailor. Why would someone want to kill a bespoke tailor? I hadn't got a clue. So I needed to find out. And it took me down a really interesting path, which was sort of unexpected and rather delightful, I think.
Again, no spoilers, but the ending is incredibly satisfying. It all does mesh in very, very nicely. What's the you're saying that you sort of you start with the body and move on from there, so you're essentially writing in the dark, or pantsing as some authors call it. Is there a tipping point where you think, oh, okay, I know how this is going to end now? Or do you get all the way to the end and figure it out then?
No, I mean, in the tailor, I actually, because of what happens, I knew quite early on, which really threw me. I didn't like it at all because I just wanted to finish the novel. It would have been a very short novel. I'm writing next year's novel at the moment. I'm just in the last few days of it. My books tend to be about 90,000 words. And when I approached 70,000, I found out who one of the killers were. Right. So that was quite cool. So that can happen quite late. And then when I go back in the second draft, I make sure it all makes sense and, might heighten things. But I don't, because of the way I write, none of my red herrings, as it were, are add-ons. They're all organic. They're all
Yeah.
proper lines of inquiry for George to go down, which I think makes them more satisfying, more credible.
Yeah, I'm going through something similar at the moment. There's a mystery element to the thing I'm writing, and it's like you. I'm starting and I'm writing in the dark and going along. And you look back and you think, okay, what are the opportunities? What's the stuff I've already got there? What does that lead to? Rather than thinking, I've got to shoehorn this in, So
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
yeah.
And I don't, I'm not the kind of writer who, knows what's happened and then spends 80,000 words deceiving the reader. I'm not into that. I'm not golden age. I'm not into kind of, let's lead you on a merry dance. I mean, I hope there is a merry dance, but it's not my overt intention. Yeah.
No, it's like I said, again, no spoilers, but it feels very satisfying at the end. It's definitely worth that journey. Yeah. Now look, I've seen you out and about in a new suit. Again, folks, if you visit Tim online, particularly, you've got a great Instagram page in particular. There's a suit that you commissioned from King and Allen for the launch of the novel. Has it changed what you wear? Are you more of a suit person? I mean, you're wearing a jacket this evening. We're joining us compared to my scruffy T-shirt. Has it changed what you wear? Has it changed how you think about your clothing?
Yeah, I mean, there are two separate suits. One is I commissioned a suit from Richie Charlton, which is the 3-piece you'll see on my Instagram, to do research. This one, yeah, that's the first fitting for that suit. Right. So he's measured me, and that's the suit with the base stitching you can see, and kind of figuring out how it's going to go. But we have a competition with Bloomsbury, where you have a chance to win a £1,200 suit from the lovely tailors King and Allen. All you have to do is sign up. You don't even have to buy the bloody book. So there's an opportunity for you. But yeah, I mean, I kind of, when I came to writing crime fiction quite late, in my 60s. And one thing I did think, you've got to be quite visible. And I've spent my entire life in the creative industries, and I like clothes, but I've never had an opportunity to wear a suit. It just wasn't my thing. There are film directors like Paul Feig and Sam Raimi who wear suits. So when I started writing fiction, I thought, you know what, I'm going to wear suits. I'm going to become the bloke in the suit. And I thought, I looked around me at other male crime writers in the UK, and I thought, well, I might not become the best-selling novelist, crime novelist in the UK, but I think I could easily become the best dressed. So that's what I set out to do, and so that's my thing now. I like to wear suits, and whenever I'm out and about, I wear one of my suits. I have a small collection, 2 of which are bespoke, but the rest are off the peg.
Yeah, I think it's a genius idea, because most of it, like me, I dress now like I did when I was 19 still. I found a look in 1993 and I stuck with it. So it's, but I mean, my daughter was married last year and I got a new suit for that. And I was like, this is nice. Maybe it's a middle-age thing. Maybe I'm thinking, actually, because I'm doing a Comic-Con at the weekend. It's a steampunk one. I've got the waistcoat for it. The shirt makes me look a bit steampunky. So I'm going to dress up for that. I'm going to enjoy that.
Why not?
So,
I mean, I've had a couple of authors say to me, well, if I'm on a panel with you again, I'm wearing a suit. Which is great. I'm single-handedly raising the
standard
of the British
difficult. Excellent. I'm glad to hear it. That's very good news. Now, when we last spoke, I think for the previous podcast, the bestseller experiment, I think you just released A Patient, which was book 3 of the series. Were you still self-published? Was that still self-publishing mode?
No,
or had you been?
The Patient was the first traditionally published, and they'd gone back and republished the first 2. I mean, I had to self-publish because I was turned down by 2 or 3 agents, including my own agency, which was odd. And I was asked whether I was autistic. And when I said no, I was asked if my children were autistic, which I thought was a bit impertinent. And when I said no to that, I was told that no publisher would, this is back in 2019, 2020, no publisher would touch me because I would be accused of neuroscientific appropriation. I couldn't even spell it. But so I came home to my wife, Rachel, and I said, look, I've done so much research. I mean, my starting point was I wanted to write about what was then known as Asperger's in the workplace. I'd done a lot of research, and a detective fitted the kind of, was a really good fit for me. But I said to her, look, I'm going to self-publish, and if I get pushed back by the autistic community, then I'll just drop it. If I get pushed back by the neurotypical community, I won't mind so much. And quite the reverse happened. I was really embraced by the autistic community, or by people for whom autism had touched their lives in some way, either through their children or friends or parents. And it was quite sort of humbling, the amount of mail I was getting. And after 4 months, 16 weeks, I'd had over 175,000 downloads. So something was obviously going quite well. And that's when the publishers came calling.
This is I often find this, particularly with up and coming writers, it's a great fear that they have of this idea of writing outside of your own experience. But that's what we do as writers, as storytellers.
It's called fiction.
Exactly. And I think if you ever do, after you do your due diligence, you do your research. I mean, before one of my novels, it was The Holly King. I'm writing about a soldier returning from Dunkirk who has PTSD or shell shock, as they might have called it then. I've zero experience of that, but I knew enough, and I approached a couple of people who have endured this, and they were fantastic. And one of the first questions I ask when I do research like this is, okay, what do people always get wrong about this? When in TV shows, in books and films, what do they get wrong? And that kind of helps open the door, and they want you to get it right. They want to help you. So I think rather than make it something that you're afraid of, embrace it, because you're going to learn from it. Your readers are going to learn from it. And if you do your due diligence, then it shows in the writing, I think.
Yeah, I think you've got to have respect for your subject. I mean, with me, George's autism, his condition is his gift. It's not an accessory like Inspector Morse's Jaguar. It's a thing, and it's very important to me. And I've had lots of emails from people saying it's so wonderful to see someone on the spectrum portrayed in such a positive way, using their condition in such a a beneficial way. So it's worked out really well. But I don't, but there are lots of rules with George, which can be quite frustrating as a writer. But one of the central ones is we never laugh at George. We often laugh at people's reactions to George, or people around George, but we never laugh. And we often laugh with him, but we never laugh at him. And I think that's key.
One of the really nice things about the Taylor is there are people in the ensemble who have known George for a long time, have worked with him. They maybe think they figured him out, and then you get new people starting, and you see it from their perspective, and they kind of reflect on how they were when they first met George as well. So it's maturing as well. It's one of these things that's becoming.
Yeah, I think it's really important in a series that you have a good background kind of characters or tertiary characters that have an arc that go through the series, so that readers can feel they're coming back to a world that they're familiar with, that they're like catching up with people. They want to find out what's happened or what's developed. And to me, I mean, character is king for me, and I hope that I've cracked that with George, that people come back for George, but they also come back for Raymond and Josie and the people that he's surrounded with. And I think that makes it a more satisfying read. I don't think crime fiction that's just crime after crime after crime will work as well for readers, as well as well shaped characters.
Absolutely. I mean, when I worked at Orion, I go to events with people like Ian Rankin and Michael Connolly, and you hear readers talk to them, and they never say, "Oh, I loved it when the guy was arrested at the end." They go, oh, what did you do to Rebus this time? What did you do to Harry
Yeah.
Bosch? You know, they are obsessed with the lives of these characters and the
Mm.
trials and tribulations you put them through. There's a
Yeah.
wonderful bit in this one. And again, I want to go light on spoilers, but he does get kidnapped. And it is hilarious because he drives his kidnappers up the wall.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
just
it's
like,
you know, hopefully, you know, it's proper jeopardy, but you know, he
yeah,
is frightened, but he has to kind of, he deals with it in the way he deals with, you know, his life as a teenager at school. He takes the same coping mechanisms with bullies at school with his kidnappers, and it works well. I really loved
It's
writing that.
wonderful. Yeah, it shows. I think it definitely comes across. Okay. Now, one thing I want to do before we go into our break is talk to you about the great sock controversy that's plagued your social media recently. Are you willing to talk about that?
It's painful, because the sock thing is, you know, I was really appalled to discover that I'd done some posts in my socks, which I think is really wrong. I don't think men of my age should post social media in their socks. I think it's distasteful, and I don't think people should be subject to that. Don't get me started on bare feet, because you know we'd have to end the interview quite quickly. But yeah, the socks thing, you know, and I've had quite a few comments because I do like a sock, but you know, I have another thing as well when I go to do these events. You know, I have to make sure that there's no flesh between sock and trouser hem, because that just drives me nuts. Bare
It's
flesh
just
is not there to be
disrespectful.
seen.
Yeah.
So
No.
the sock thing has become quite troublesome and troubling for me, but hopefully we've got through it now. But thanks for bringing it up.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. You're very, very brave. Thank you. We're going to take a wee break now. I'm going to talk about the green room, because twice a month I run live sessions on Zoom where you can ask me questions about the craft of writing, your work in progress, or the business of publishing. The sessions are fun, informal, and chatty. You can send me questions in advance. They are recorded live and saved on Ko-fi for exclusive access to Green Room supporters. Now, we just had a special episode with best-selling thriller author Paul Austin Ardoin, where we talked about pantsing, plotting, writing commercial fiction, and kind of really useful information that can make a real difference to a writer's career. So that episode is going to go live soon. There's a little bonus episode, sort of taster for you folks, just to keep an eye out for that soon. But if you want to sign up to the Green Room, there's a QR code there on the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening back on the podcast, there'll be a link in the show notes. It's all run over on Ko-fi. It's £20 a month. There's no long-term commitment or anything. And it's over the years now, it's matured into a really wonderful group of writers, all supportive, all, you know, uplifting. It's a really, really positive space. My goal is to be able to give you advice that's going to make a real difference to your writing and career. Because the way I see it, having worked in this industry as a salesperson, bookseller, author for over 30 years, I've made every mistake so you don't have to. Also, I got books and you can buy them from all good bookstores if you wish, or if you want a signed and dedicated copy, pop along to my store at thewitchesofwoodville.com. Now, a quick update. I did think last time I did the live stream, I did think the End of Magic trilogy was coming on audiobook at the 30th of June. The narrator wasn't available. He is now. It's now coming on 22nd of September. It's going to be worth the wait because Dan Callie is the narrator, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. So I cannot wait to share that with you, good people. Okay, let's get back to our very, very special guest, and let me just get rid of that. Tim,
I like
welcome
the
back.
idea of the Glean Room. I think I will. I think I would
Glean.
subscribe to the Glean Room.
We'd glean knowledge, wouldn't we? Yes.
Yeah, gleaning. I think it's great. The Green Room. Yeah, it's a bit arty-farty. The Glean Room.
Yeah.
I'm coming to glean.
I've clearly missed a trick there, haven't I? Yeah. I need to rethink my life and career. Let's get on to the regular questions, Tim. So, first one: what small thing has made a big difference to your creative process?
What small thing? I think many years ago when I was writing screenplays, I decided to give myself a cutoff point of 4 p.m. that I would stop writing at 4 p.m. Wouldn't mean to say I'd stop working, but I'd stop actually writing. And when I did that, my productivity went through the roof. When I had this kind of, right, I will stop then, it really compressed the day in a way that gave me a kind of target, not of words, but of, which I don't believe in, but of time. And that really, really was helpful. So that's a small thing that really had a major impact.
Was that when you're working in Hollywood or in British TV, or what was?
In
Because I
Hollywood.
think because I think the thing in Hollywood is you've got to be on it 24/7. You're available. People are going to be calling you at all times of the day, and
Yeah,
that can
particularly
be.
if you live here. You know,
Mm,
I deliberately did not move to Hollywood. I mean, I spent a lot of time over there. But if you're here, you know, you can have script conferences at 10 o'clock at night. And so you've got to be ready for that. But that made a difference. The other difference was having the confidence to say, right, I'm going to continue to write longhand. I don't write on computers.
right.
I write with fountain pens in journals, and that I, you know, once I'd kind of worked out that was all right and not daft, I was much more confident, I think.
I'm the same. I do the same thing. I type it up afterwards, but
Yeah.
first I will write first. I think there's
Mm.
just this direct line
Yeah,
from the
absolutely
brain
right.
to the hand. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I once rather pretentiously said the thing about typing with a keyboard, writing with a keyboard is a bit like tap dancing, whereas writing with a fountain pen is more ballet. But I felt very pretentious having said that, because it is really pretentious. But there's something in it. There's something in it.
The only thing is I can't do fountain pens. I'm left-handed and I write upside down, so I smudge everything. So for me, it's the
Ah,
Parker Jotter. The Parker
yeah,
Jotter is the king of pens for
yeah.
me.
No,
So
I have a sort of an obsessive collection of fountain pens, unfortunately.
yes, yeah, I've got a few author friends who are like that. Okay, next question. What's the thing that makes you think you're ready to start writing on a project?
I kind of mull things a lot, and I'll often sketch out notes. You know, I never sit down to write a book before you're ready.
Mm.
Having said that, I'm never ready. So because of the way I write, but it's a sort of state of mind, really. Um, you know, when you feel kind of your mind is in a good place to get going.
Mhm.
Um, but you know, and sometimes when you start a project, it won't go well. Just keep going because you can always go back, but don't keep going back because you'll never go forward.
Mm. When you spoke earlier, you said you had no idea who committed the crime
Mm.
necessarily, but do you have an idea of where, say, George is going to end up at the end of the story in terms of his sort of emotional arc or ongoing story?
No, not necessarily. I mean, you know, I do have to look at the subsidiary characters and work out what they're going to do. That feels a bit more organic and it's generally related to the story in some way or thematically.
Mm.
No, I didn't, the episode where George is abducted just came out of the blue. It didn't, and in the teacher, there's a real dick of a detective brought in, um, because I thought George was having a bit too easy time with Otti. So he needed
Mhm.
to have a bit more conflict. And that worked
Mhm.
out in a way that I did not see coming at all, which was very satisfying and had more to do with Alice Mackenzie than George, in fact. Um, yeah.
You mentioned thinking thematically there. I am, and as people in the green room will know, I am obsessed with the idea of theme, central dramatic argument, and each story presenting some kind of argument. Is that something that's important to your process and getting you started?
Yeah, I think so. And I always try and there is an edge to George's books. You know, on the one hand, you can read them sort of comfortably, but there is an edge to all of it. You know, in The Dentist, we very much deal with homelessness and the lack of justice leading to a life on the streets. In the cyclists, we deal with teenage pregnancy and anabolic steroids in in amateur sport. In the patient, we deal with assisted dying and the question of that. Politician has gambling, notoriety of actually in the politician, the terrible murder of Anne Widdecombe kind of it sort of pre-echoes that in a terrible way.
Gosh, yeah.
And so teachers deal with abuse in schools, the monk deals with religion. So it's I think it's really important to have something to say. And the tailor goes into areas that we can't discuss because of spoilers, but that's an interesting sort of kind of ethical questions are posed there, I think. But I think it's
Very
really
much so.
important. And I mean, the most important thing in any book, which I bring from movies, is narrative drive, and that is all to do with themes and character.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question: how do you know when you're done?
What, on a daily basis, or when the novel is finished?
When the novel is finished, I think.
Well, when I write the end. I don't know. I mean, you kind of the novel. I tend to write to deadlines because of my background, which a lot of authors find really terrifying when I tell them, "Oh, I'm delivering on Monday." Oh, well, how did it go? Well, I haven't finished it yet. What? And that sort of is quite interesting with when you write murder, it sort of brings a kind of another sense of rhythm or urgency at the end, which I quite like. But on a daily basis, I'm a morning writer. I write much better in the morning than I know. I have I don't do targets, word counts. I don't think they're healthy. But I can write for 4 or 5 hours and be done, or I can write like a dervish for an hour and a half and I'm spent. I kind of feel sometimes, you've got a creative reservoir that runs dry. There's a certain amount in it, and you need to recognize that and not go beyond it. But I think as you get more experience, you come to understand your own kind of reserves, as it were.
Okay, I've got a new one for the roster for the regular questions. I'm just throwing this in there. How often, if at all, do you think of the reader?
All the time. All the time. Not, but I think it's really important you don't second guess the reader.
Yeah.
But in terms of keeping it interesting, keeping the reader interested, in terms of the pacing and the rhythm, I think about them a lot. But that is not to say that I'm trying to work out what they would like. So I'm thinking about them. So I think about them in the sense that I'm bearing them in mind.
Yeah. The reason I'm adding this to the mix is I did an event recently and I asked an author, best-selling award-winning author, how often they thought, and they said never. And it just blew my mind because I'm first draft is very much for me, but anything after that, I'm thinking about the reader and keeping them engaged, keeping them hooked, keeping them entertained, which I feel is very much my job. So yeah, brilliant. Thank you for that. What's the biggest mistake you've ever made in your writing career?
Cool. I can't. I don't know. God, there have probably been so many, but I've obviously kind of erased them from my mind.
Yeah.
In order to survive.
No, fair enough. Well, we'll flip that around then. What's the best happy accident of your career?
Oh God, there have been so many. Meeting people, thinking of ideas, pitching in the right time, and I think as a writer, you've got to always be open. It's like being a director. When you're on set, you've got to. It's a kind of schizophrenic thing where you've got the biggest ego and the smallest ego at the same time. You've got the biggest ego because you've got to be confident and drive a production crew that can be 70 to 100 people on through every day. But you've got to have the smallest ego so that you listen. And if someone makes a comment on something you're doing, you've got to be open, because in the end, they're all the audience. But yeah, I don't know. I've had a lot of good luck in my life, and I've had in my working life, and I've had a lot of bad luck as well. But in this industry, you work on a project for 2 years, and then the head of the studio gets sacked, and your project's dead. Nothing you can do about that.
Yes, been there, done that. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Folks joining us live, if you have any questions, do pop them in the comments and we will get answers for you. Last of the regular questions, Tim. Is there a character or a story swirling around in your mind that you want to write, but you're not ready to write it yet?
Yeah, there is one, and I'm hoping to write it when I deliver this draft next week.
Wow.
It's been swirling around for years, and it's a standalone with a potential for a series. But yeah, it's a novel set in Manchester where I spent 10 years. I think it's really good. And I cracked on holiday. I was lying by the pool a few weeks ago with my family, and I suddenly cracked him in my head. And I went, oh, that's what it should be. And I ran into the house and wrote the opening paragraph. And thought, yeah, this is going to work, which is always nice when that happens.
How long had that been swirling around in your head?
About 6-7 years.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it, how it works?
Yeah. I mean, I think, the good ideas always sustain. Good ideas will always live inside your head and resurrect at sometimes inconvenient times, but they'll always come back.
Right, folks. Emily, do we have any questions from the folks joining us live this evening? Okay. Rockhopper 1. How do you write a murder mystery and try not to give away who the murderer is too early? Crikey, that's we could be here an hour talking about that. So, I mean, this sort of goes back to the fact that the way you write them, Tim, you don't necessarily know who the murderer is.
So the answer to that is that I don't know. So I have no chance of giving it away. And in fact, I was at an event with the politician, and someone said to me, oh, I knew who did it on page 142, to which I replied, well, congratulations, because I didn't. So that's quite an achievement. And as I say, I don't write in that way to know who the murderer is and desperately try not to give it away all the time. That's not the way it works for me.
Yeah. It's legend has it that Agatha Christie would get 9/10 of the way through she's given everyone a motive for the murder, and then she stopped at 9/10 of the penultimate chapter or whatever, and then decided who did it and went back and retrofitted everything. So
yeah, I think that's perfectly valid. Well, who am I to say Agatha Christie was right? I will do that. I mean, I changed my mind in one book. At the end, I thought, no, I don't like that killer. So I changed it, went back and retrofitted a bit. It worked really well.
Yeah, very good. Okay, any other questions then? Okay, so Steve Gowland, without giving away spoilers, what murder mystery have you come across and thought, oh, that's genius? I wish I'd thought of that.
Actually, recently, what's the lady's name who won the Theakston a few years ago? Jo Callahan? The one who writes the detective with the partner who's AI.
Oh gosh, I don't know them.
Oh no, this is terrible. Hang on,
we'll edit this out. Make a time code, Em. We can look it up. You can live people joining us. You can
Are we all Googling it?
What's that? We're all Googling
it. Yeah, Jo Callahan. Her first book was In the Blink of an Eye in 2023. And I thought that was really great. I thought the idea of the concept of having an AI partner was brilliant. I wish I'd thought of that.
Yeah.
I came
Yeah.
away thinking, bugger. Yeah, why didn't I think that?
The ideas, though, they do tend to be a bit overrated. I think it's not so much the idea; it's the execution of it. You know, I think the idea of an AI detective, it's probably been done in science fiction before, blah blah blah. But there's
She
if you
wrote
can
it
do
well,
it
though. I think, you know,
Yeah.
what she managed to do in that book was make a relationship between the AI and the other detective, which had resentment, jealousy, misunderstanding. So she did it really well. But I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, it's always more than just the idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and this is Richie. He's on a different account today, but every episode he asks the biscuit question, which is, "What is your favorite biscuit as a writer?"
It's got to be Marks and Spencer salted caramel.
Excellent.
Quite simply, and if anyone dunks those, just listen to another podcast or something, because dunking is just a bad thing.
Excellent. Thank you again, Richie. We get a different answer each time with those. So yeah, fantastic.
Try them out.
Okay.
They're great. Other biscuits are available.
Yes, yes. But if M&S wants to sponsor this podcast,
yeah,
we're happy to talk biscuits till the cows come home. Okay, brilliant. Thanks for those questions, folks. Keep them coming. Now, what's bringing you joy at the moment, Tim? Can be books, movies, TV shows, games, whatever makes you happy when you're not writing.
The last thing to make me happy is Arsenal winning the Premier League, and that was fabulous. And I have 2 season tickets, and it was extraordinary when the parade happened after we lost the Champions League. The next day, you know, we've been to a parade not for 20 years in Islington where we live, and you could just wander around and go and see them. This time, you could not get anywhere near the streets, and no word of a lie, there were over 1 million people on those streets. It was extraordinary, and it was almost like a reflection that not just Islington, but people in this country needed something good in this area to celebrate. It was such an outpouring of joy, and it was amazingly ethnically mixed in a way that, you know, the Emirates is not, but it was incredible, absolutely incredible. So I really enjoyed that. Look forward to the next season.
Until I was 8 years old, we lived in Hornsey, so not a million miles from Hornsey. So Dad is a Villa fan, and so as a result, I've inherited the Villa gene, and so we would go and see Arsenal play Villa, but we'd be in the Arsenal end.
Yeah.
So there'd be
Tough.
me, 7 or 8 years old, my dad on one side, my uncle on the other, and if Villa scored, which they did occasionally, then you'd be going, "Yay!"
Yeah.
You have to keep quiet about it.
Yeah.
Yes. Happy memories. What else is bringing you joy at the moment, Tim?
I really enjoyed The Pit on HBO Max. I thought that was fabulous. I thought he was great. Noah Wiley was just fabulous. Very mature performance. It's kind of, for those people who don't know, it's like they've taken the idea of it's set in an ER department in New York, not New York. Is it Philadelphia? And they've done it hour by hour. So each episode is 1 hour. So it's basically one day. And they do it brilliantly in the same way that ER was brilliant. So I really, really loved that. In terms of reading, I've been going back in time a bit. I've just read the Patricia Highsmith Ripley series, which was fabulous. She's just so wonderful with character and sort of atmosphere and really kind of amoral central characters. Just fabulous. And John le Carre. I've been and in a sense, the Tailor is in a sense a slight nod to John le Carre. And the thing with him, his prose is so good. I'd forgotten. I mean, he really is a wordsmith. He really writes really well. So, that's given me a lot of pleasure. And at the moment, I'm actually reading Bleak House. I thought I'd go and see how proper writers do it.
Yeah. It can be both inspiring and slightly depressing as well, can't it? When you come across,
Yeah, I mean, but I'm really enjoying it. I mean, I think you can really learn a lot from reading classics.
Yeah. No, I read Jane Eyre over Christmas, and
oh yeah, I just
and
read
it feels-
Northanger Abbey.
And they still feel modern. They still feel relevant. They still feel the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Excellent. Okay, the thing's giving me joy at the moment. I'm reading Habibi, which is this epic graphic novel by Craig Thompson, and it's about two orphans, a boy and a girl, and it's set in deserts and harems, and there are caravans moving through the desert, and you think it's set in some distant past, and it starts to reveal itself more and more about the world that they live in. This was recommended to me by Poppy in the Little Green Bookshop in Herne Bay, and I'm forever grateful. I'm about a quarter of the way through it. This is not a book. I mean, the illustrations are just stunning. This is not a book to be rushed. This is a book to read as slowly and indulge in it as much as possible. It's absolutely gorgeous. So that's Habibi, Craig Thompson. Absolutely.
Have you read any of Simon Mason's crime books set in Oxford?
No.
He has two detectives, both called Wilkins, which is quite funny. Ryan Wilkins and Ray Wilkins. And that's a really good series. That's a new series set in Oxford. And he's really good. So I recommend those.
Excellent. The other thing bringing me pure joy at the moment is Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Now, about a year ago, I stopped subscribing to Paramount, so I completely missed a whole season of this, and boy, have I missed it. I'm catching up on season 3 before season 4 lands in a few weeks. And the Rolling Stones, Foreign Tongues, that is the worst cover for any of their albums ever. But this, as a rock album, considering how old these guys are as well, has really got lead in its pencil. There's a standout track is called Mr. Charm. It just sounds like something they recorded in the 70s. Now, I saw them play in the 80s and 90s, and people dismissed them as over the hill back then. But boy, they've still got it. Mick, bless him, he's still moving about there. So yeah, hitting to the groove of the young people, the Rolling Stones is my big recommendation. Now,
yeah, it's a great album. I've listened to it. Great album.
Yeah, it's terrific. Absolutely terrific. Over the next month, I'm going to be at all sorts of Comic-Cons. So I've got some dates for your diary here. I'm going to be at the Maidstone Steampunk Convention at the Maidstone Museum this weekend. I'm going to be at the Magical Market in Faversham over the weekend of the 1st and 2nd of August. I think I'm going to be at the Tunbridge Wells Comic-Con. I'm still waiting for confirmation on that one, but that's 9th of August. But a couple of really, really big ones. There's the Canterbury Gaming Convention, which is going to have a whole corner for authors. There's going to be a whole bunch of authors there, and that's going to be absolutely brilliant weekend. And then For the Love of Fantasy and Science Fiction, 22nd, 23rd of August at the XL in London is just going to be absolutely amazing. It was epic last year. So I really hope you've enjoyed this episode of Creative Differences. You're going to find all the links we discussed in the show notes for this episode and on the episode's webpage at markstaykreativedifferences.com. Huge thanks to Emily for production assistance, and to Kai for the edit, and Dominic Curry for the jingle. Let's have a listen to that one more time. Thank you for that. Do we have any more questions before we sign off, Emily?
I loved writing, working on Coronation Street, and I did an episode where Curly lost his virginity, and I found in the tapes, the audio tapes, we found an extended version of the Coronation Street theme from the original session, with a big trumpet solo in, and we used it the only time it's ever been used. It was fabulous.
To celebrate Curly's coming of age.
Yeah.
Brilliant. We got a question from Nicola Briggs here. Hello, Nicola. Thank you for joining us. Would you consider, Tim, writing a memoir? So you spoke there. I mean, like I said earlier, you've worked on some incredible films, Coronation Street, Sherlock Holmes. You were really young when you were working. I saw some photos for you working on that. Would you consider,
yeah, I've been asked this a bit. Actually, Nicola, if you go to my website, there's a series of essays I wrote that are like memoir essays called In the Can. There's about 6 or 7 of them. And you can read that and then let me know if you think I should write a memoir. They've kind of got early memories of how I started and stuff. The trouble with writing a memoir, particularly when you talk about Hollywood, is whether you can afford the lawyers or not.
So is the best thing, Tim, to go to one of your events, buy you a drink in the bar afterwards, and then speak off the record?
Yeah, or go to my website and read in the can. I will write some more. But funnily enough, Mike Bullen, who wrote Cold Feet, got in touch with me once and said, I've read these essays. They're great. You need to write a book. You need to write a memoir. So it's sort of, and as you can tell from this podcast, I'm not averse to talking about myself. So maybe writing a memoir would fit in quite well.
Have you considered doing a craft book as well, how to write sort of thing?
Not really. I don't really believe in them. I think I do on Instagram. I've started doing writing tips, which seem to be going down very well. And they're just sort of 20 or 30-second thoughts that I've had, that I've gained over time, which I'll continue to do because people seem to enjoy those. But no, I don't. I don't think I would enjoy writing a craft book, and I think that you can glean enough in the glean room. You can get enough stuff from stuff on the internet and interviews and things.
Excellent, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for that, Tim, and thank you for your question, Nicola. This has been an amazing episode. Thank you to everyone who's joined us. If you're listening to the audio podcast or rewatching this on Facebook or YouTube, thank you. But we really missed you. And you're more than welcome to join us next month. Speaking of which, next month's special guest on Wednesday, 12th of August, is Ivy Niao. Now, Ivy is the award-winning author of The American Boyfriend, Heart of Glass, White Crane Strikes, Overboard, and more. She writes really gripping, page-turning fiction. She's also a musician, an expert on interior design. She's written books about that, and she could probably sell world peace. I mean, she's everything. She's definitely an author that you want to catch live, and she is a ton of fun. I've spoken to her before. So join us live Wednesday, 12th of August, 8 p.m. British summertime. And if you've enjoyed the podcast, things like ratings, reviews, that all really helps the spooky algorithms. But if you can just tell one person about this, if you can share this with one person, that word of mouth thing makes an absolutely huge difference. So please do that. And
I've just seen a comment saying you could call your memoir Sullivan's Travails. But interestingly, there's a Preston Sturges movie called Sullivan's Travels, which is
it's about the importance of writing, is it? Yeah.
It's a fabulous movie. I'd really recommend seeing that, Sullivan's Travels.
Yeah, brilliant film. It's one of these things that we think sometimes what we're doing might be a bit silly, might be a bit unimportant, but actually it's how I think, art, we make sense of the world. When
I was younger, I really wanted to remake that with Hugh Grant in the lead, but it never came to anything.
Oh, that's a shame. That would have been great. But I've just been to see, I went to see The Odyssey.
I am
one of the oldest stories there is, and of course you watch it, you think, oh, this is all very familiar because pretty much every writer has stolen from it at some point or another, and it just reminds you of the power of storytelling, of the thing that we do, and there's nothing more moving than a really good story. So wow, let's pat ourselves in the back. End on a high. Well, thank you so much for joining us, folks, and until next time, happy writing, reading, and being different.